Hey traders, hopefully you had a good weekend and are having a good start to the week. We're going to be looking at BTC as well as the Bitcoin dominance to start off this video here. BTC is pumping pretty solidly. We had a initial descending wedge, which we'll talk about right now, and then we had a little bit of a move to the downside. We did tell our community not to worry, potential reverse head and shoulders coming inbound, and then we are now currently seeing the follow through of that price action pattern. So let's take a little bit of a closer look here on the 6 hour, and then we'll take a step back. Just wanted to describe what happened kind of within the recent price action since the previous video that we had on our YouTube channel. So let's first take a quick picture and then discuss what happened since our last video. So we already talked about the descending wedge that occurred kind of at the start of February or March is when it initiated. We talked about it within our Discord when it made our third low, because we initially had our sell-off right here, which created our first low, second low, and third low. We had a nice descending zone right there, and then we had a very well-structured, well-respected series of lower highs, which then created our descending wedge formation. We even talked about the three waves that we're looking for within our Discord community if you have not checked it out, which would be an initial push. We got our second, and then our third, contracting the volatility, and then we get an expansive move. So then we saw initial push. We saw not too much relative volume come in, but overall we do see more buyers than sellers looking at the different exchanges. So then we initiated the impulsive push. So we got a little bit worried when it made a lower low from this low right here, but we did see the previous key level of support, and then this is the reverse head and shoulders that then was created from the dip to the downside, which was well supported with this ascending zone right here. So you could look at this as a reverse head and shoulders, as we can see right here. We're seeing a nice breakout from that reverse head and shoulders, as well as a ascending triangle with 1, 2, 3, and then we see that 1, 2, 3 here as well, like so. So we see multiple formations all pointing to a bull bias with BTC moving to the upside. And then looking at this initial wedge right here with the breakout, you get around 60K. And then you also get the reverse head and shoulders. Looking at the head to the breakout zone is around 60K as well. So you see multiple confirmations, as well as connecting the unconfirmed trend line, because you do need one more in order to confirm it. But you do have an unconfirmed trend line creating a bit of resistance there as well. So I think that next key level is going to be around 60K there. So from around 53K to 60K, I think that BTC will be pushing up to the upside. So that's going to be my overall bias for Bitcoin. We will want to see the US dollar fall if that is the case, because they are negatively correlated. But in short, we see multiple price action confirmations to indicate that buyers are in overall taking confidence, having control of the market, and they do have control with the reverse head and shoulders, with the ascending formation. Lots of buy pressure coming in with lots of buy injections, pushing the price of up major levels of resistance. So overall, looks really bullish on BTC, which is going to give way for alts, in my opinion, to fly. But I think there's going to be that last bit of holding a BTC before you basically get a capitulation of the BTC market dominance. The difference with 2017 and this one, though, is I think it won't be that aggressive, because one thing to note is back in 2017 and 2016, the majority of the capital that was coming inflows from traditional asset classes, or even like people's savings or checks, or just people working, was mainly retail class. It wasn't institutions, it wasn't funds, it wasn't this billionaire class that is now getting introduced to Bitcoin. It was mainly retail traders, and really with retail traders, they have more speculative characteristics, let's say. They have less money, so they don't need as much liquidity compared to a fund maybe that is having like over $1 billion in AUM. Obviously, you need a lot of liquidity to be able to manage your spread, to manage your slippage, to be able to manage just being able to get in and out of a market without significantly impacting it. And BTC does have that liquidity for most funds, firms, trusts, all that stuff. But with alts, I don't think it's really there. So the majority of the capital flowing from these major entities, in my opinion, is going to initially come into Bitcoin, which is going to make it a little bit more challenging for the BTC dominance chart to absolutely capitulate like we saw in 2017, because the majority of the fundamentals for Bitcoin is that it is a store of value to hedge against inflation with the central banks proliferating the currency. It makes sense to them. But then with things like Ethereum and smart contracts, obviously for us an amazingly innovative technology. But for them, they're not really looking for that. They're looking for more stability, and Bitcoin is a hedge. They're not looking to, in my opinion, invest in the new startup project for a blockchain technology. They're looking for stability in a portfolio that is trying to remain, let's say, alive in a basically zero interest rate world if you're looking at fixed income assets, which is very difficult for funds to really acquire. So going back to Bitcoin, that's why, in my opinion, they're going to be looking at BTCs. Has high liquidity, big market cap, $1 trillion plus or minus depending on the day. But overall, you don't really see that many. Ethereum's slowly climbing up, but I think that's why we're not going to see the capitulation. So I think it will be a break after the 57.58, like we have been talking about for months. But I think the consolidation here and the demand for Bitcoin from institutions and other large entities that have significant capital backing them will be strongly focused towards Bitcoin. So having that allocation in Bitcoin wouldn't be a bad idea. I think, yes, in terms of ROI, you could make some significant profits. Let's say, for example, with DOT, that has been flying. Uni, I think, is really doing well. BNB recently absolutely popped off. But BTC should be a part of any cryptocurrency portfolio, in my opinion, because of the attributes that BTC is able to provide. So going on to a different topic here, we're going to be looking at the DXY, which is the US dollar index. But overall, looks really bullish. I do think that there will be some consolidation like we talked about within the market cap BTC dominant chart, which is BTC.D. Hopefully everyone is looking at that. Really important, just basically shows that right now Bitcoin has around 61.3% of the entire market cap of the cryptocurrency market, including every single alt. I don't know if it's every single one, but the main alts within the market we can see is in this chart. So when this is going down, doesn't mean that BTC is bearish. It just means that altcoins are really taking charge, and there's a large amount of speculation in the market. So we had a significant amount of speculation back in January, February, because we saw Bitcoin initiate its bullish move back in October, which we did call. And I think we saw a really good structure here. We saw a nice squeeze. And then usually with bull markets, you're going to see Bitcoin initiate the bull market, and then altcoins are going to start to really emerge at the later half of the bull run. And we can see that Bitcoin took a lot of dominance back from kind of initiation of the bull run back in October of 2020. Took back a lot of dominance, and then back in December, January is when the speculation really started to emerge, because people saw that BTC was going from 12K, 14K to all-time highs, and you see that hype and that FOMO come in, and then the money pours into the altcoins because they're cheaper. Novice traders and newbies are thinking that because they're able to buy 10 of something instead of 0.05 or whatever they're looking to buy, it's a better investment, which is never really the case. You can actually look at the project itself in the price action, FA, all that stuff. But looking at how just markets move, I think the next move is going to be the downside. But like we saw here, lots of demand. We still see that higher low. I think there's going to be some hesitation here from the altcoins before we get that next leg down. I think it's inevitable with this bull run, because there's going to be more speculation, and the amount of altcoins is just exploding in terms of DeFi, in terms of these decentralized exchanges. Pretty unbelievable. You're getting all these different tokens really disrupting so many sectors. So that's only going to get bigger and bigger. Bitcoin is just one asset, and it is basically going to be up there with silver and gold, in my opinion, in terms of sound money. But there are going to be projects in this space that are going to be disrupting the largest tech corporations that we're currently seeing right now, and even like things that we haven't even seen disrupted in really years. The medical sector is just waiting to be utilizing blockchain, in my opinion. So we're not really going to dig too much deeper, a little bit of rambling. Let's now go on to a different topic here. We're going to be looking at DXY, which is this guy. Also, quick note, DOT looks good. I'm not going to be talking a lot more than that. We've been talking about it with our members for Proof of Money Premium. Definitely think it's a good opportunity. Almost, not quite yet. So DXY, going on to it, it does look like it is holding the key level of resistance, but I, to be honest, do not like where it is because we've already broken our major level of support, which is now going to be a resistance, which it broke above. Did have some hesitation, but it did break above it, and then we even broke above this major resistance, which was also a resistance. You could fudge it a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is really actually quite a bit above higher than where I'd like it to be. I am going to give it a little bit of time. Like if you're looking on the weekly chart, we still do have 3 more days and around 19 more hours for this to hold. So I'd like to see it come down a little bit. But the fact that we did break out of this descending wedge oh so aggressively, I don't absolutely love. We got quite a bit of volatility back in the start of October. We were initially really bullish when this for Bitcoin when this broke to the downside. Same thing here, but we did get quite a little bit more of a move to the upside from the Dixie compared to what we initially wanted. But that's not really stopping us, even if we're getting a little bit of hesitation from this to go to the downside. I'm still looking at Bitcoin, in my opinion, to be continuing to the upside. Like it's a zone, right? We got to look at it like such. We see lots of demand here. I'm going to assume that there's going to be sell pressure in here. So it's holding off right now. It's really nice to see. If we start to see it continue and then Bitcoin start to climb back, and especially if we start to see this hold where it is and continue to push up, and if Bitcoin suddenly starts to break and then break this ascending zone of support, this shows that a little bit better. Like so. If Bitcoin starts to fall, let's get our brush, fall below this zone right here, that's when it's a little bit worrying, because then we can get that move to the downside. You're making a lower low from this major level right here. So then, you know, at a later point, you could be seeing a nice descending zone somewhere like this. Something a little bit bigger. We don't exactly know, but you do have to have some patience if it does break. So that is the only case where I want to be a little bit less bullish on the overall cryptocurrency market, is if BTC starts to fall. This is a little slight fake out. I don't think it is, but if it is, then we have to be a little bit cautious, cut our losses on any leveraged trades that we have for BTC and alts. In terms of longer term positions, it's a bull run. I'm going to be holding all long-term investments because I do think that appreciation is soon to come. We're just going to have to be patient for the volatility to settle down and then that next formation to come in before our next leg up. But as of right now, it does look like Bitcoin is moving to the upside. We just would like to see the US dollar hold this level, come back down below the 92 level, which would be ideal. And then we're going to be seeing everything just fall into place from that point onwards. And then quick look at the S&P 500. It is widening in a larger, wider price action formation. So lots of volatility coming in, but I do think that we're going to be holding this series of higher lows. We're going to be breaking to the upside and then testing these series of higher highs here, because unless something occurs, they're printing money, they're giving it to everyday citizens, they're giving really money not just to institutions, but now everyday citizens. So at this point, inflation in the cost of goods and services could be a little bit of worry, because before they were giving it to institutions and you saw the financial asset inflation really with equities, with ETFs. You're just seeing all of these stocks and ETFs absolutely explode and hit all-time highs. But I think if you're giving money to everyday citizens, you could see a little bit of inflation in the cost of goods and services. And then the central banks are in a little bit of a pickle. So we won't really talk about that today, but we will really just end it there in terms of talking about the inflation, because that is a whole other topic in a nutshell within itself. So That's going to be my opinion on the S&P 500. I think overall we are seeing a lot more volatility coming in, but we're seeing a nice consolidation, a bottoming formation, and we're going to be seeing a nice new leg up for the S&P, maybe even hitting all-time highs, hitting above 4,000 is going to be my overall bias for this asset. Last thing I'm going to touch on is actually Binance Coin because it does look pretty good. Hopefully everyone does remember DOT, which is also a potential. But BNB does look like it is holding a nice series of higher lows right here. A lot of people do remember this as a massive mover recently, which it has been. Looking at the weekly chart, obviously we've just been moving to the upside astronomically. We're seeing the most amount of volume we've seen, major high R vol, which is great to see. A lot of eyeballs, right? And then Binance is really trying to implement some new stuff for their project as well with the largest exchange that they currently have. So overall, it is looking pretty favorable in terms of the technicals as well as the fundamentals here. Lots of hype, lots of FOMO, and lots of interest. If you don't know, you can save a pretty penny of a discount when you are trading on Binance if you purchase BNB and use it for your fees. I believe it's 25%, which is a pretty substantial amount if you are trading with a pretty sizable portfolio. So something to note. And then if you do have a little bit of coins leftover tokens because you can only buy and sell in $10 increments, you do sell it in small amounts and then incorporate it within your BNB. So there is kind of always a little bit of buy pressure in BNB because it's the largest exchange. People use it to pay for their fees and then they convert all their small token amounts into BNB, creating buy pressure within all the different markets for Binance Coin. And they also burn the amount that is in excess, so they are actually being able to control the float or the outstanding number of coins in circulation, which is pretty awesome if you are a holder and an investor of Binance Coin. So a lot of positive things about this in my personal opinion. I think in terms of technicals, if we do start to see a nice big break above 265, it's going to be looking pretty phenomenal. So that's going to be where I ended off right there. Hopefully everyone has been profiting from this crypto market. It's been pretty unbelievable. Lots of bullishness. I think BTC is going to be looking really good. Ethereum is going to be looking really good. Uni, a lot of things. DOT, BNB, obviously. AD has been doing very well. I think just breaking over that dollar mark has been very significant for it. The one thing I'd like to see is for the US dollars to start falling to the downside. But mind you, this is just a comparison versus the rest of the currencies in the world. The euro, the krona, GBP, yen. There's some Aussie in there, I'm sure, New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar. It's a whole basket of international currencies. But at the end of the day, you're comparing shit fiat currencies to shit fiat currencies. They're all devaluing against things like gold or other sound money assets like BTC. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. It was a little bit shorter. We got a little bit exploratory with where we went. We weren't too structured, which I thought would be a little bit more fun, a little bit more entertaining. If you would like me to cover an asset in the next video, definitely drop in the comments and we will look at them. Hopefully you are at least in our Discord, at least know about it. We do talk about the many assets that we look at within our Discord, looking at things not even in crypto, looking at S&P, looking at volatility in the VIX, looking at the DXY, looking at other FX pairs, looking at BTC dominance, all the stuff that not everyone looks at, I think is pretty important to get a really broad perspective of the market. And I think that's what we do well here at Performante. So hopefully everyone had a good time over the weekend and are all studied up for this upcoming week. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Thank you for tuning in and have a good one, traders.